Hey guys, it's late Friday night. It's actually Saturday morning at 1:53 in the morning, and this is Project's Point of View. It's a little cheesy Day 9 daily ripoff I'm doing. This is our second episode, and we're going to be doing a quick look at an article that was actually published by Team Dignitas. And what they do, or it's an article based on Slayer's Alicia. And what I've been personally having a problem with is my Protoss vs Terran, and I've been looking for not necessarily ways to just get quick wins or anything like that, but it's a lot of it is dealing with the 10 minutes of terror, like DJ Wheat coined in the game that Alicia and Marine King Prime went. It talks about how the first 10 minutes you really can't do too much to the Terran. They're going to turtle up, they're going to go, and then from 10 to 16 to 18 minutes. They've got drops, they've got a good-sized army, they're just going to kick your ass, they're going to pull you apart, they're going to go from place to place. So, how to deal with that? And a lot of people have been getting into a standard type of play by going robo. It lets you be safe, but it doesn't allow you to be mobile. It allows the Terran to be able to kind of do what he wants. So, what Alicia has been doing is actually applying some really, really early pressure, and based on pretty much a 5 sentry count, and doing a lot of different things from there. We're going to watch a game where he does a gateway kind of push. We're going to watch a game where he actually does it on one base and just gets immortals and just crushes the Terran opponent. And we're actually going to be talking about the article a little bit more in depth too. So as we kind of go into this particular game and we make my camera go away, bye! We start the play from short stuff, or Alicia spawning in the top right. I have sound enabled, I swear. And my mic is muted. No, it's not, because I'm using the other muted, or the other mic. Ha! We're off to a great start, guys. So short stuff, or Slayer's Alicia is spawning in the far right position on MLG Antigua Shipyard, and we have Quantic Gaming's The Ogma spawning on the far left. So, pretty much that we talked about is that the opening is pretty simple. You see a 1-gate opening into expand, and then it transitions into 3 gateways, and you apply some pressure at about the 8 to 8.5 minute mark. Now this game is the second of a best of 3 from the GESL, the Gigabyte series that Alicia placed 8th. He didn't outright win it, but he did pretty well out of 16 players. This was game 2. We're going to look at game 1. And the reason why I want to look at this game is because it kind of has the same elements to it, but there's a little bit of metagame involved. So we see a gateway scout coming down from short stuff. Nothing too fancy here. Ogma is doing a gasless fast expand. It's a little early to determine that there's not going to be any gas going on, but we see... I'm pretty much just going to tell you straight up, he's going to go gasless fast expand. He's not building any additional guys or little gas, and with the probe actually peeking up, he's not going to be able to see a whole lot because Ogma is a jerk. But as we can see from short stuff's point of view, he can peek over there and there's not any gas being taken over there. And at this point, I mean, you kind of have to kind of peek and do what you need to do, and I think short stuff or Alicia will do a good job of that. But right now, it's very difficult to get any kind of official read. But that's not going to change short stuff's plan at all. I keep saying it's short stuff, but it's Alicia. Putting down a cybernetics core just before the 3-minute mark, and that pylon wraps up in a chrono boost. Additionally, one thing to note regarding this build is that there aren't any zealots coming out. So there's not going to be an initial zealot or a sneak out zealot. It literally is just going to be straight up stalkers and sentries. So Ogma is actually just scouting around, make sure he doesn't find anything too cute. We look at short stuff. He had to get out because the Mariner was on the way. He's actually looking around to make sure that the actual guy left, but we see a gasless fast expand coming from the Ogma. And we'll keep an eye on the watchtower and see how Alicia gets a good read on it. Now Ogma doing a very, very cheeky thing, actually placing down an engineering bay in the natural. But as you can see, this is something that I'm going to steal and rip off. Alicia really doesn't miss too much of a beat with it. So the engineering bay gets about halfway done. He could probably build that a little bit farther and go from there. But as you can see, it's going to take a long time for that engineering bay to get done. So Alicia just takes his third. You got the 4.5 minute mark, and I'm like, man, he's blocking my natural. And I'm Darren's bullshit. It's taking third. You warping stuff there, and at least on this particular map, as we try to change back to the camera, it's pretty. I mean, it's going to spread you out a little bit, but until the 10-minute mark, you really don't have to worry about it. And with Alicia's plan, he can apply a lot of pressure in the event that he needs to. But a good follow-up would be to make sure you get blank so you can go from base to base. So we see an initial stalker being built, and we see some sentries be built out of the gateway. We see some additional racks going down for Agnes. These two gas, I think, are a little early, so he wants to tech a little bit. That eBay gets canceled, no problem from there. And we see 2 additional gateways be built at about the 5-minute and 15-second mark, and that's about when the cybernetics core is about a little bit over 50% of the way done. So these gateways will align. Just continuing to build them sentries. As we go to the unit counting station, Alicia has not cut any probes. He's just building them, doing what he needs to do, and he's just continuing to build sentries. Now, we see barracks coming online, and we actually see a tech lab decision coming out pretty early. So this is a slightly little bit earlier, and with a little poke of the stalker, he'll be able to get a count on the Marines. It's a little bit late, but at 6 minutes, you should see if you see more than 6 Marines, then it's off one base for the most part. But it looks like Agnes is going for a stem timing, and we'll keep that in mind just before the attack particularly hits. So Agnes actually scouts in, doesn't see an expansion. And he's actually chrono boosting. Chrono boosting some additional sentries and a zealot. In normal pushes, he normally doesn't do a zealot, but he's actually warping a lot more zealots than is normal. But if we go to the unit counting station, he's at 4 sentries, so probably warping 1 more. The stalker trying to do some pot shots. And as we go just before this little push, we actually get up to 5 sentries with another warp in. The core of the build is a 5 sentry, mostly stalker kind of push. In this particular event, he's got some zealots with him, so we'll kind of discuss that. But this kind of has the same kind of element to it. He's got a natural, he's got 3 gates, and he's going to do a pretty hefty push at the 7.5 minute mark. Now, what's the point of the 7.5 minute push that MC so famously put into place? It's to kill bunkers, pull SCVs, force hold off, do what you need to do. Alicia's kind of point of view is to force field, but not necessarily focus on the bunker. It's just to actually whittle down anything else that's around it. So there's 4 Marines in the bunker, yeah, that's it. I mean, that's cool, but if you can focus fire the 6 Marines that are outside and a handful of SCVs, you're going to put the Terran even farther back than what's focusing down the bunker would do. So just almost moving up to the top of the ramp. In the build, or in the article that was actually revealed on Dignitas, there aren't any zealots really pushed in, but this time around he's actually warping in 3 zealots. And I think the reason why he's doing that is because there's not a whole lot of supply depots right here. Now, in the VODs from MLG, both Pult and Marine King Prime, as we get into the cat wants in, right? We're gonna let the cat play. As Marine King Prime and Pult both do, they actually build walls with their supply depots. So it prevents zealots from being able to do a whole lot of pushing right here. So I think that, and I just came to this realization, the reason why zealots are being a little bit more heavily favored is because the wall is not going to be efficient. Cat's name's Jaina. She wants some attention. Hi, Jaina. We're going to put her aside. We're going to go back to the fucking game. So the push comes at about the 8-minute to 8-minute and 15-second mark. And as we can see Agnes doing, he's actually building 2 eBays. Actually canceled one of them. And he's actually teching quite a bit. So We see one Marine actually poke out to make sure there's anything else going on, but we see a heavy Zealot count, 5 sentries, and a good amount of Stalkers. So, as we can see from this, the ramp actually gets a little bit better, but with some force fields, it prevents a good repair, and it wasn't until just then that there wasn't anything actually in the bunker. So, Marines are on the actual outside. We actually go to the unit counting station, and, I mean, a lot of this is kind of excessive, but I mean, Short Stuff's, or Alicia's army is actually very much overwhelming Agnes's army as well. It's kind of confusing to get a good account of what's going on here, but realistically, there's only like 8 Marines. So going for the guaranteed damage, taking out these supply depots and hardcore locking Agnes. And while this was going on, back in Alicia's base, he's actually chrono boosting a forge, and he's actually going for +1 armor. He's actually trying to add on some additional, and during this entire time he's not cutting probes, he's adding additional gas for additional tech in the event that this goes awry. But in some of the other games he rushes to an additional kind of tech. So we see some bunkers being put down. Agnes is trying his best to get back in the game, but the supply block was too significant. Marines are on the wrong side of the force field, and pretty much there's only, you know, four of the 6 supply that's right here is actually out in the field. It gets down, and the Agnes leaves the game. So pretty much, other than the cute kind of adjustment at the beginning with the third timing, which I might take in case any kind of cheesy stuff like that happens, but pretty much you push with a pretty good sized army off of three gateways, and you normally push with Stalkers and Sentries, or at least that's the kind of pulls that Alicia did in the MLG. But since the wall wasn't effective, he just used barracks. That's what a lot of people in at least the Diamond Ladder do. They will just put bunkers and don't wall off at all. So I'm going to try both, at least personally, and kind of see where we go from there. The other game we're going to load into is the first game of the series. Alicia actually won this, but I haven't seen... I mean, it's a tournament setting, so it's going to be a little bit different, but pretty much we see a 1 base all-in from Alicia, and I mean, that's definitely going to be very, very powerful on this particular map, but it's... Most of the backbone is going to be Sentries, Immortals, and Zealots, excuse me. So we'll kind of scoot up from this particular point of the game. The opening is very, very similar. It's going to be 1 gate, and it's going to be on 2 gas. And this particular strategy was used on Entombed Valley. Entombed Valley has a wide ramp, so force fields do have a little bit of success. This is the MLG version, so I think on this version it's not cross position. I think you can scout or spawn anywhere. But as we can see, Agnes is actually doing it command center first. And by scouting over here, Alicia was able to, or actually we'll go back to, by scouting over here, Alicia was able to get a read that there was an expand coming. There's also no gas. So even with 2 racks, by getting Marines pretty early, it looked like Agnes was going to do a lot of pressure off the bat. The probe's trying to do whatever kind of damage he could, and he actually did quite a bit of damage, actually pulling a SCV down to 10 HP and another one down to 30. So Stalker being sent out. I'm actually going through this replay super quick, and for that, I sincerely apologize. So we're going to go back for just a second. We're going to go back to the 2-minute mark, and we're going to go back into this game. So... So pretty much right here, there's nothing different. Alicia likes to skip the initial zealot, and is actually getting a 2nd gas. So this build was likely planned, because even as of right now, he's just now starting to get some scouting information. But we see a Stalker being chrono boosted. Warp Gate was not chrono boosted, and we see a lot of chrono boost still being saved by Alicia. And at about the 4-minute mark, we see a robo being put down. So I think Alicia's strategy right here was to try to keep Agnes in the dark. As we can see here, a second SCV is actually being sent out to check for a scout. So these top tier players are really doing a good job of just trying to keep tabs on their opponent, trying to see what they do. And we see a sentry being placed down right there. And what Alicia is doing is he's actually going to be doing an immortal push. So we still see some sentries being built. Agnes is actually checking for an expand, doesn't see it. Force filled the ramp, and he's actually getting a complete shutout of this space. Now, he could be scanning, and I'm not sure if he actually utilizes that for mules. Actually, we'll keep an eye on this guy. Normally, at least from my PvT, I normally try to scan at the 5-minute mark, but it looks like he's calling down mules, and he's actually playing a little bit more in the blind. We see some sentries being placed down. The immortals are actually placed a little bit farther back. So if there's another poke, the only thing that's going to be up front is sentries, which is good. We see 2 more gates being added on. And we see immortals 2 and 3 actually queued up. And as we can see, this is one of those walls that we talked about. This is the first game between the two, so there's actually a wall being done, but the bunker, excuse me, is actually very well exposed. Ideally, you'd want to have supply depots in front of it. But we see a forward proxy pylon being put down, and I think this is very key. In some of the other games that Slayer's Alicia plays, there is no successful reinforcement pylon. So if that happens, you need to pull back after the attack or after the poke, after kind of what you're doing, because even if you are successful, there's no chance of reinforcing. So do the guaranteed damage that you can, but get out. But if you're able to slam down a pretty close reinforcing pylon, keep going with the attack. So immortal number 2 is out. Immortal number 3 is on the way. And as we can see here at about the 7-minute and 33-second mark, we've got a pretty good sentry size army down here. I think it's going to warp in at least 1 more. Sure enough, we see 5 sentries being warped in. So it looks like 4 is being warped in, and then 5 is the actual money number. So we see Agnes actually scouting a forward pylon. He's actually responding to this as best he can. He should be putting some of the other Marines in some of the other bunkers, but he's actually putting down a 3rd bunker, and with the amount of immortals, it's really not going to matter too much. So as we can see, the attack just about the 8-minute and 12-second mark. Agnes still doesn't really have an idea that any kind of army is coming, or what kind of tech is coming. Yeah, most of the time Terrans are going to be expecting the 7.5-minute to 8.5-minute gateway push. It's going to have, you know, your wide variety of units we talked about. But at the 8-minute mark, being able to completely shut down any kind of reveal that you got 3 immortals, it's pretty good. Now, also immortals do excellent amount of damage to armor. They do 50, so with 3, they actually 2.5 shot a bunker, and they do really, really good damage against everything else. So let's see what kind of damage that Alicia does. So that bunker, like, there was no, like, absolutely no kind of response time. Like, pre-pulling your SCVs for that would be the only way to even survive that. But as we can see here, the amount of units that Agnes really has to deal with this is not much. I mean, there's 11 army supply, but a lot of that is in reinforcing, and there's only 7 Marines. And 7 Marines, no matter what's going to happen, aren't going to do very well against that. So we see some additional warp-ins being done. Looks like there's some Zealots to be able to tank some fire. But for the most part, it's Stalker, or at least in the reinforcement, it's Stalker Immortal Sentry. This is Zealots tanking some of the SCV fire, but the Immortals are doing so much damage. Any kind of reinforcing units can't get down there. And we actually see nearly, all of Agnes's SCVs being pulled, but with the amount of force fields that that Alicia had to use, they're not going to be able to get down there. Now that orbital command might land. But it's not going to be too useful. Now, One thing to note. This is a fucking all-in, right? Don't like, oh, I fucking did a lot of damage, I'm gonna expand behind it and take my lead. No, like, this is literally all in. You've got 3 gates in a row, though. Like, I mean, yeah, you damaged him quite a bit, but the correct response is just to go fucking kill him, in my humble opinion. Like, even though that you're 21 food ahead of your opponent, actually putting an expansion down would be a big mistake, because that will give the Terran enough time to actually build up and do what they need to do. The probe count is still favoring Ocnus, and actually 27 SCVs on one base with 2 command centers for mules, you're going to be able to mine that out pretty quickly. So just go fucking kill him. And we're going to see how well Immortals do to barracks. No additional warpins quite yet, but we see a bunker actually being built up down there, but it's not even gonna matter. Supply depots and bunkers go down pretty quickly. I mean, even with the missed focus fire, that barracks almost is in the red, and now we just completely shut down 66% of Ocnus's ability to produce. And with a little cute micro, even losing an Immortal, we're down 43 food. So Axel has left the game, and we'll go from there. So those are the 2 games I was able to actually locate. I actually wasn't able to find a lot on Alicia, but I might be looking in the wrong place. Just Googling SCT reps and looking on Reddit and Team Liquid, really didn't find too much. So I know Alicia's kind of like a B squad gamer, but getting 2nd place at MLG Championships ain't bad. So just to kind of get some resources as to where you can get some of this information, come on, guy. The article is called The Perfect Storm on teamdignitas.net. Cynico Christopher Messer actually writes about Alicia's 2-base PvT Templar play. And there's a good read on about the core concepts and initial pressure. And it really talks about the ranking prime Alicia standpoint. But as we can see in some of the other games, some of the core mechanics actually stay there. Additionally, on SA2 casts, the replays from the Ranking Prime Alicia game are here, but some of the other B team or some of the other off-streamed games, like Pulp versus Alicia, are actually listed there. Alicia actually does a DT harass that really just, I think it's awesome because DTs are great, but it just didn't do enough damage, and from there, Pulp just pulled them apart. But Alicia actually went on to win the game 2-1. And did a lot of the things that we're seeing here, but I'd rather not stream MLG content on my stream. So, if you liked what you saw, subscribe. I think it's over there, yeah. And check me out at twitter.com/project21 and twitch.tv/project21 as well. Thanks, guys.